Welcome to I Need a Coach, where we interview top coaches, experts, authors, and speakers, hear their stories of success, entertain, educate, and inform. My name's Adam Packard. For the last 7 years, we've helped over 500 coaches, consultants, and speakers leverage LinkedIn, help them with their business development and marketing. Today's guest is Simone Sweeney. Simone has an interesting background. For 25 years, she worked as a marketing executive with Lego and Apple. And as a coach for the last 2 years, she'll share stories on how important branding and positioning is as you're reaching out and starting your coaching business. And then also how important it is to really define your niche and your audience as part of your brand and positioning. So excited to have Simone on the show today, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, welcome back to I Need a Coach. Today we have a special guest, Simone Sweeney, coming all the way from London in the UK. Simone, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Adam. I'm really happy to be here with you today.
Yeah, excited to have you. So let's kind of start at the, maybe not all the way at the beginning, but kind of your career journey a little bit. I know you have some interesting history, and you worked at Apple, you worked at Lego, which when I first met you, I thought was super cool because my son's into Legos and we have Legos everywhere in my office right now. But tell us a little bit more about kind of your backstory and then kind of how you progressed into the coaching that you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I worked in the corporate world for over 25 years in marketing roles with companies like Apple and Lego, also Motorola, for those of you who once had an old cell phone from there, the old flip phone, StarTAC. A lot of us started out our cellular journeys way back when. Yeah, absolutely. Most people did. I think if you're under 35, maybe not, but once upon a time. So I worked in the corporate world for a long time, sales, marketing, retail, in global and regional roles based in North America, Europe, and also spent a few years in Asia. And I did a lot of fantastic projects, developing Lego's new retail concept, opening new markets for Apple retail, launching mobile phones to the next million people in sub-Saharan Africa, Indian subcontinent things. And then after 25 years or so, I thought it was time to put my energies in a different direction and decided to retrain as an executive coach, which I did about 2 years ago. I'd been leading large teams, international teams, so different cultures, different competencies, different levels of experience for more than 20 years, and really got a lot of energy out of supporting people and developing high performing teams. So coaching was a natural next step for me, and have been gleefully working in that space for the last year and a half or so.
That's awesome. So when you started the coaching business, did you have, your offer already in mind on what you were going to sell and what your offer was going to look like and who your ideal audience is, or did you kind of figure that out as you go?
A bit of both. Coming from a marketing background, I think I was quite predisposed to understanding what my coaching brand and my business would look like. But I've definitely worked along the way to refine that offering. And if you think of a coaching solution as a product, it is a service. It's something that you are offering to enrich someone's life, just as someone might buy the latest Nike shoes or the latest, iPhone. The coaching and kind of business solutions and services industry is very similar in the fact of you're trying to solve a problem for someone. So I started out by thinking about the people I'd like to help, the areas that I was best positioned to help them in based on my own experiences and my expertise, as well as the areas that I'm personally interested in, for example, positive psychology and kind of strength-based coaching, and refined what a lot of people would label as my niche from there. So I have definitely evolved that as I've gone, looking at the people I am naturally drawn to, who are drawn to me. I work with a lot of people from marketing, brand, tech, big business backgrounds, a lot of creative industries, agencies, marketing, advertising, PR, communications, etc. And so, as you spend more time working, that offer gets more specific, more narrow, and I think easier to position. So it's been a bit of a journey, but I think the marketing background did help me a little bit out those early days. No,
that's awesome. So that's the audience that you kind of work with. So you mentioned, problems that you help them solve. So in the work that you've done over the last couple of years, what are some of the main problems that you see that you solve? And without giving away the farm, how do you help companies and individuals, solve those problems?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do work with both individuals and teams as well as groups. So I'm shortly to launch a new group coaching program on building a confident career. So I'm really excited for that. But I am very focused on helping kind of driven, ambitious professionals who are not where they want to be. And that might be because they haven't had the right support or opportunity in their current business environment, or they're ready for a promotion and they're not quite sure how to get it, or maybe they're dealing with a difficult relationship or challenge at work. There's change, there's redundancy or restructuring coming, and they need to relate to that. Or just, and for a lot of my clients, it is as simple as this, is they're not feeling terribly energized by what they're doing, and they feel that their career is at a point of inflection. Something needs to change, something needs to give, and they're going on a bit of a journey of discovery to help figure out what that is. So that's mostly the space I work in, as well as helping with things like leadership skills, addressing things like confidence, imposter thinking, building resilience, and just generally being there to act as a support and cheer people on in this journey, because sometimes you just need someone who's a bit more objective and who can empathize to just talk things through with. So that's kind of the space that I'm naturally kind of playing in.
What was the hardest part about transitioning? Because I had a guest on a couple of days ago, and he talked about, a lot of coaches come from the corporate world and then they put on their coach hat, and it's totally different when you're in the corporate world and now you're off on your own, building your own business. So what did that transition look like? And would you have done anything different looking back, a couple of years ago to when you started, now that, you move from corporate position of 25 years to now my business is up to me and it's all on me? Anything you could share there?
Yeah, and I think, Adam, that perspective as it's the business is up to you and it's all on you is absolutely the thing to kind of relate to, is that I get a lot of energy and really enjoy doing everything, but it's easy to be distracted in doing everything. I heard someone talking about procrastinating the other day, and because I'm a marketing person, that's where I will naturally go and play. So, I think, that is a difficult transition from someone in the corporate world. And particularly as you're more established or more senior, you have more people doing jobs for you that you have got out of the habit or never were in the habit of doing in the first place. So, there can be quite steep learning curves in just learning the different skills. I was very firmly and correctly in a marketing creative space. Doing my finances is not something I enjoy, but I have to. So I've learned. That's a challenge, but mostly a good one. I'd also say that it is different when you come from a corporate environment and you are used to working as part of a team, or you have a lot of peers and you're working in a very collaborative way. So it's really important to build a network and have a community that can support you, because you can be quite isolated when you're doing things on your own. And when you're working as a coach, your clients aren't there to serve that kind of camaraderie and that collaborative need or fill that hole. So, that's different. I think the one thing I'd probably do differently or offer as a pearl of wisdom to anyone thinking about this is that if you can build up a parallel business, whether it's coaching or it's some other kind of passion project while you're still in another job, carving out the time and you're doing that in a way that is ethical and grounded and allows you to deliver what you need to at work. But in whatever downtime you have, starting to build the basics of another business gives you more security so that you are able to hit the ground running rather than having to build things up a bit more gradually. And that just wasn't an option for me just because of the way, that I decided to approach it. I was doing education and kind of requalifying and going through a lot of extra training and things that didn't work. But I would certainly go back and tell me, at 23 years into my career, hey, if you're thinking of doing something new, do a little bit on the side. Spend that extra time on the weekend. Don't go for that glass of wine. I think that would help.
Yeah. And I had a similar situation when I was working for the motivational speaker. It was a full-time role, but, I started to build my side hustle and started to do that. And Jim Rohn says, work part-time on your fortune, full-time on your job until you can work full-time on your fortune. Right. So that's great advice to kind of start before you cut all ties and sink or swim. And now it's, oh crap, I've got to find some business here now. So I think that's great advice to kind of slowly kind of work into it. But if that's the main goal, talk about the business development stuff a little bit. Kind of, obviously you start with choosing the right audience and that you have background there. So you probably had a pretty good warm network and people that knew you and probably would hire you, now that you're doing your coaching in that space. From a business development standpoint, how did you kind of get the business off the ground? What did you do in the beginning to kind of get your first few clients and kind of where has it gone from there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's important to have some kind of a brand foundation. Again, can't get rid of the marketing perspective there for me, but just having enough material out there for people to see you in a new context is really important. So I effectively had to rebrand myself from Simone Sweeney, Lego marketing, like a retail person, to Simone Sweeney executive coach. So I needed a website. I needed to update my LinkedIn profile. And that was almost the kind of the scariest thing because it is so public in a way. I was kind of trying on these new roles, but getting the basics of that in place, looking to social media and starting to understand the platforms that you should be leveraging. There's so many of them, and fair play to anyone who's using all of them. But between, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, all of the different things out there, TikTok too, as well as conventional, kind of more conventional, let's say digital marketing and really old school marketing, you need to be pretty firm on where you're going. So, I started by establishing that kind of brand, basic foundation. And from there, I looked to my network and I was fairly active in helping people to know that I'd made a change, communicating that, sharing the reasons why, asking for help, asking for advice, and just looking for as much support as I could possibly get from that network. And my first clients did come through there. They were either people that I had worked with that had seen me in some work capacity, being part of another team, had heard me speak at an event. And then from there, I did get into actual active marketing, lead generation, digital advertising. I'm just looking more at right now, and just constantly developing my skills in new products and solutions that I think would work for my market. But it all starts with understanding who that audience and that market is, and then starting to speak to them any way that feels authentically you, I think is a good starting point. And that voice is really important, whether it's the lead generation space, whether it's the posts that you're putting out on all the socials, your website, how you talk to someone in your first kind of conversations and discovery calls. And that's where that kind of core brand foundation really is important.
See, I did the opposite. So I think it's really important that you did it that way. Looking back, people ask me, do I need a website? Do I need this? I don't think I had a website for the first 3 or 4 years that I was doing this LinkedIn and marketing game. For me, it was all about, I just want to make another connection with another human. If I can help them, great. If not, let me give them some ideas. But I didn't figure out the branding and the positioning piece. It's kind of a work in progress as our name has changed and our logo and our branding has changed and our offer has changed and who we help has changed. So knowing that you're in this super competitive space, as I am as well, of coaching, talk about a little, if you were to kind of put your coach hat on for another coach that's kind of getting into this game from a branding and how to position yourself, how does one kind of go about figuring that out? Is it identifying your strengths? Is it identifying your audience and who you can relate to first? How would you kind of start that if you're kind of breaking into the coaching world, don't have a lot of clients? And how important is that branding and positioning? And how would you kind of get that process started?
Yeah, I love that question. And it's actually been really interesting is that since I've started in this space, one of the things I have consistently done is helped others with defining exactly this. And it is a strength of mine. And you, I think, have just answered your own question there by, sharing that you didn't start with the website. You started with building your network, reaching out to people, figuring it out as you go. From our kind of work together, I know that that's a strength of yours, that kind of authentic condition, authentic authentic approach, building connections, delivering what you're going to say you're going to deliver. So that's exactly where I would advise anyone, both from my own experience and with the brand hat on, to start, is to understand what your strengths are and then play to those. Just as you would if you were going to any kind of entrepreneurial situation, or you were, positioning yourself for a job, writing your CV or an interview. Start with what you are naturally comfortable and excel at, and kind of build it from there. And when you're talking about building a brand strategy for a small kind of service-based business like a coaching business, is understanding what makes your offering unique, why someone should work with you, and then talking about that in the ways that feel most authentic. So if you are an extroverted, confident person and, a bit tech savvy and enjoy filmmaking, or, don't mind being center stage, then you should definitely be looking at video and looking towards using that on TikTok, LinkedIn, other, Insta, whatever, other formats. Likewise, if, you're more creative and artistic and you're really motivated by kind of creating an atmosphere, then something more like the website kind of creative deliverables might be the place to start. So play to your strengths and start from there.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. So you talk about being unique and having that value proposition. Standing out and being different is key, right? You talk about, having that one thing you're really good at and kind of solving that one problem. Because I talk to a lot of coaches, and what I hear over and over again when I ask them, what type of coaching do you do? And they're like, oh, it depends. It depends on what the person needs. It's like, well, yeah, that's great, but it's kind of hard to get a conversation started when your audience is, all business owners, and you do leadership coaching or executive coaching. Did you have that kind of going in, saying, I need to take this angle to get conversations started? Because once your foot's in the door, then you can kind of branch out and say, oh, I can help with this and I can help with that. But until you get that conversation started, it's kind of hard to sell everything to everybody.
Yeah, I think it does help you to kind of narrow your audience and who you're serving early on. There is so much on whether you should or should not niche, and where and when, in kind of the coaching literature. And there are lots of schools of thought on this, but I think from my own experience is understanding enough of who you are there to support and who you are appropriately skilled and experienced to support is going to help you attract clients, because the more specific your message is the more specifically you can market to that person. So in not knowing your niche, or kind of being all things to all people, the net is so broad that for someone who has quite a specific need, or is working in a particular industry, or is trying to address or seize a particular opportunity, someone who can do everything for everyone isn't going to necessarily serve them to the same degree as someone who's lived it, or someone who is specialized in that space. So I think it does make more sense when you're starting out to have a good understanding of that, and to carry that through in any of your communications, whether it's, a discovery chat, it's how you introduce yourself when you meet new people. It's what it says on your LinkedIn bio. But at the same time, that doesn't need to be set in stone, and it should evolve. Mine's definitely evolved in the fairly short time I've been coaching, to reflect the people that I am naturally kind of attracting, and where I'm seeing great results from, and where I also get the energy from. It wouldn't make sense for me to, be coaching CFOs. I could do it, but I can't really relate to the challenge of managing, hundreds of millions of dollars of a P&L. I can certainly talk to you about return on an ad campaign and how to drive brand engagement. So being able to speak the right language just helps you connect better, and it's going to allow you to sell your services better.
Yeah, no, it's a great answer. So what's the plan for 2024? What are you gonna do new, different? What other marketing strategies are you gonna try? You have your group program you're coming out with. So what's on the agenda for 2024 for Simone?
Yeah, so I'm excited about the group program. So I'm looking at some kind of various masterclass formats, and have a few themes. One's on career development, and others on leadership, and building a community for those clients who are working with me to just get the right support and engagement that they need. So that's a space that I'm really looking forward to. And the few groups I'm involved with right now are just going fantastically well. Just having people, and strangers connecting and supporting each other, sharing best practices and offering kind of a nice, nurturing environment where everyone kind of is in a similar place and just needs some support that's non-judgmental is really great. So I'm looking forward to really bringing that out. I am going to be much more intentional with my own branding and marketing. So I need to stop the procrastinating and, it works great, but I just will spend so long tweaking something on Canva because I just really enjoy it. So, I need to kind of manage that better and follow up on my leads more diligently, do some of the things that, now need to be very planned and mindful in order to spend my attention on growing the business and serving the clients well. Also, I've got a lot of kind of development work I want to do. I'm working on a positive psychology course right now, massively enjoying that. It's really relevant to the coaching that I do, which is oriented around individual strengths or finding the strengths in a team dynamic. So I'm very excited for 2024. And, as it's still the second week of January when we're recording this, it's a brave, bold, exciting world ahead.
Yeah. And I know you talked about podcasts too. Is that in the future too?
Yeah. So I completed a series last year on getting started as a coach, which is just a really good practical guide that I did for the Association for Coaching about what coaching is, what it takes to get started, and kind of the different questions and tools and resources that are out there for coaches to consider and use. And I am working on another series right now. I can't say too much about that yet because it's still kind of a glimmer of the idea, but I think that will be largely focused around leadership in kind of a corporate context and leadership of yourself and how you can develop your programs and kind of continuing down the podcasting journey. I very much enjoyed being on the other side of the microphone. In my old world, I'd speak about the corporate experiences we were doing and at various trade and event industry kind of activities. So it's great looking at it because it's such a powerful medium. And I think that's been one of my greatest discoveries of the last few years. There's not a car ride or an evening making dinner that's unaccompanied by some great podcast. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about I Need a Coach and hearing more from all the great guests I know you've got lined up, Adam. It's
been a lot of fun. It's kind of fun for me because I get to just ask the questions and get people to share, right? Which is unusual. Usually I'm the one doing most of the talking, but it's a great way to, connect with people. And I actually had a couple people reach out to me and book on my calendar. I'm like, how did we meet? Because usually, they'd be in my CRM. I'm a stickler for CRM. And if I can't find them, no idea where this person came from. He's like, oh, I listened to a podcast you were on with Gary. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So it works. And it's a great platform to be able to, reach more people and share your message. So where can people find you? And if they want to learn more about your work, what's the best place or way for them to do that?
Yeah, great. So would love for anyone to get in touch. I'm based in London, but you can tell by the accent, didn't start here. So I'm kind of working all over the world, which is great. You can find me on LinkedIn, Simone Sweeney. My website is thrivewitharise.com, and maybe you can pop that in the show notes down the road. I'm also on Instagram, just getting a TikTok going. So all the usual places, really. But do reach out and say hi. I'd love to connect with anyone who's getting some value from the podcast and learn what's on your mind and how we can better serve you in the world of coaching going forward.
Awesome. Simone, so great to reconnect with you. I'm so glad we're working together, and I'm sure we will be for a long time to come. So thanks for coming on, sharing some nuggets, and I'm sure it's going to be super helpful for not only the people that you serve in your audience, but also coaches that are looking to break in and get their own coaching journey started. So thanks again for being on the show.
Great. Thanks so much, Adam. It was a pleasure to be here and loving working with you. So look forward to the energy and all of the great connections.
Awesome. Thanks, Simone. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of I Need a Coach. If you've made it this far, I genuinely appreciate your dedication. Putting this podcast together takes a lot of time and energy. In return, we only ask one thing, which is if you could please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This helps our show get in front of more people so we can help more people. This is Adam Packard signing off. Keep coaching, keep thriving, and see you in the next episode.